is Rush from 2013, directed by Ron Howard, starring Daniel Bruhl, Chris Hemsworth, Olivia Wilde. Quick logline: the merciless 1970s rivalry between Formula One rivals James Hunt and Niki Lauda. I had not watched this movie since it came out, but I remember watching this movie and maybe for the first time feeling that, oh, Chris Hemsworth actually can do kind of non-Thor stuff as well.
Hmm.
Just being blown away by this movie in terms of how fun it was, and it got kind of the action and the spirit of Formula One racing, but then also it's a period movie. It's pretty transportive. You're in the 70s, and then really at the center of it is this relationship between these two guys, played by Daniel Bruhl and Chris Hemsworth. And I think rewatching this movie recently made me feel once again this is kind of an underrated movie. I think it sort of goes back into something that Ron Howard often gets blamed for, but also kind of is a secret kind of weapon, that he's sort of a journeyman director, right? Who can
Hmm.
come in and handle movie subjects of all kinds and tell a pretty straightforward but good solid story. And that's what this movie is, but it does have some flair to it and some flourish to it. And I think that the juxtaposition of these two guys in terms of their philosophies over life and how they think about racing, how they think about masculinity, and the clash that comes between them as a result of those different philosophies, but then also this sense of mutual admiration. Like they actually help each other,
Hmm.
even though it might be destructive, at least in the beginning, but they kind of become each other's foil, if you will, in real life, but also in the movie. So I think the movie actually gets all of that really well. In terms of Chris and why I put this on a wildcard list was, I think I was saying this a little bit earlier, that I rarely have seen him be vulnerable and kind of really inhabit a character fully. And he's done that with Thor, but I think let's just face it, Thor is a mythical godlike character. Yes, he has pathos, he has humor, but this is not somebody who walks amongst us, you
Right.
know?
Right.
I've not seen Chris sort of be the guy who could be with us, amongst us and kind of really portray their humanity and their soul. And I think there are glimmers of that in this movie. In some ways, this character is actually not that dissimilar from Thor. He's just a
Hmm.
race car driver in the 70s. Like he's arrogant and over the top, and, people are falling all over him, but he does have potential and he is good and he has talent, but it takes a little bit for him to realize his own humanity, overcome his arrogance, and make something of it. And a lot of that happens because of Niki Lauda's character and the accident and what have you. So there's some similarities there, but I think Chris is, you feel the pain, you feel the struggle of somebody who maybe has natural talent but is also has this facade of arrogance and insecurity as a result of it, and they have to push through that, and I think he does a very good job. I also think the whole 70s kind of silhouette and the look really looks good on Chris. I think he's looked the best in this movie as compared to any other movie, at least for me. I think
Mm.
he looks good, like lean and with like longer hair, like he looks great. And so that said, though, and I'll pass it on to you, Daniel Bruhl ends up stealing the movie. Ultimately, it's his movie. It's Niki Lauda's story, I think, which is why this movie is not really thought of as Chris's movie, I guess. And let's face it, the cars are the real hero of the movie,
Mhm.
essentially. But I don't know. I like this movie a lot. I enjoyed it just watching it again. And I think Chris is very good in it. What did
Yeah.
you think? Had you watched it before when it came out?
No, I'd never seen the movie, but I'd always heard sort of good
Ah,
things about it, of like, oh, this is a solid sort of sleeper that I don't think it did very well, but it was a movie
no.
that was like well talked about. So it was nice to see it. I'll talk more about my thoughts on the film, which I did enjoy in
Mm,
a second. But on the Chris point, yeah, it was interesting because I was, I guess, expecting the movie to be more both of their stories, and it is in the beginning, but then it really does, like you say, become Daniel Bruhl's story, and the Chris Hemsworth character and the actual guy is used more as a counterbalance of trying to say sort of what Daniel's not. Daniel's doing this because he was a rich kid who just wanted to race and then prove that he can do this outside of the family business of some finance or investments or something.
right.
So he's out there to prove something to himself and to the world. And Chris's character just like in doing it because he likes it, and that's it. I don't think there's anything larger it's just two different, like you said, life philosophies. So
Mhm.
having the different life philosophy of Chris Hemsworth compared to then what Daniel Bruhl's fighting, all these internal demons, and then obviously external things with his horrible accident that he was in
Mhm.
and terribly scarred. It's Chris does a good job of like being that counterbalance to what Daniel Bruhl's going through. I was not expecting it to turn into his movie. But it was great. Like I think he did a great job, and that story is just so incredibly fascinating. I didn't know
Mhm.
any of this. I don't follow F1 at all and know much about racing, but so it was all new to me. Maybe this is all common knowledge of what this was to people that like racing, but I thought the movie really handled it well. And that last scene between the two of them in the airplane hangar when Daniel Brewer really realized, oh yeah, no, he's doing this just because he likes it, and there's
Right.
nothing else there. Is a really I thought that was kind of powerful, honestly. Like the movie sort of snuck up on me in that moment. It's like, oh, this
Mhm.
movie just really saying it's about something, and this is what
Mhm.
it's about. And I thought that was just very well handled in the script, but then also just with the performances and obviously with Howard, like you said, a journeyman director, he just nailed that. That really it could have come across as sort of cheesy or really underlining this is what the movie is. But I don't know. I thought that really left an emotional impact on me. It's like, oh wow, okay, cool. This is who these guys are, and this is two different ways of living life, and one's not wrong or anything. It's just why you do the things that you do. I thought that was
Right.
really, really great. So I
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
it.
mean, it is cheesy. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
exposition and things are spelled out, but this is what I expect from a journeyman director movie.
yeah,
Like, even in the beginning, like people are spelling out their philosophies, across the
right.
board.
Yeah.
But it's okay, you know exactly the kind of movie you're watching. Like, this is not Ferrari by Michael Mann.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no, absolutely not. And I will just say too, I want to give Ron Howard credit to the racing scenes. I
Yeah,
thought were
very well
just
shot.
incredible of not only putting you in the cockpit. I guess they're called cockpits, driver seat. I don't know. I
Driver
don't know
seat.
about F1, but put you in there and you see like how in point of view shots of like how intense it is to then, be in this car that's, going hundreds of miles an hour. But then you would intercut that with close-ups of like the machinery in the car, and you see not only is it hard obviously on the person going through this, but the car is under constant strain. And that's something I never really thought about too. Like these cars are like pushed to the brink just as much as the humans
Hmm.
are in them. And I think he did a really good job of like cross-cutting between those things where I do feel like I understand what it's like, but then also appreciate the job that these guys do and the skill that it is to actually just drive a car. It's not just like driving a car. There's a lot involved in that. And I guess again, someone who doesn't know anything about racing, I came across with a more appreciation of the sport from this film. And I think a lot of that is how Ron Howard shot those racing scenes, which is
Yeah.
so intense. Even the final one where it's in the rain in Japan, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? Like, this is like almost hard to watch because it's so
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like it's so dangerous. But they're doing it.
Totally. And that's sort of the fine line, right? Like there's danger, but there's also a lot of excitement. And he's able to capture all of that. Like you are
Hmm.
on the edge of your seat, you fear for them. You're also like, why would anybody do this for in real life? Like this is totally mad, but you also kind of want it. It's
Hmm.
just pretty, yeah. It's a fine line there, and he captures it really well. But yeah, coming back to Chris, like he's very good in the movie, but like you said, he ends up becoming a supporting part. And
Hmm.
I think this was that time. I think he made two movies with Ron Howard, outside of the Cloak and the Hammer and such, and they tried to kind of make something off Chris and it didn't really land. And I think part of it also is that he's, like we've said, he's kind of a supporting character in the movie. But yeah, he comes close to being vulnerable and kind of really shedding his thing, but it hasn't fully happened yet.
Hi there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I review a new release and then discuss 6 other movies made by that film's actor or director and how they shaped us. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.